Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Grady Allen from Anxious, and you are listening to the New Scene podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the New Scene. I am your host, Keith, and we're back with another brand new episode. And on the show this week, we have the return of Jack Beatson, guitarist / vocalist of the band Foreign Hands. And we cover the making of their debut LP, What's Left Unsaid, which just came out recently on Sharp Tone Records. We covered the whole recording process of the LP, which they recorded with Will Putney. We cover some recent touring Foreign Hands did in Europe and Japan and some stories associated with those. All kinds of stuff. This is a great conversation and it is coming up shortly. But first, here's how you can support the New Scene. Rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a main channel with full video episodes and a clips channel with clips from select episodes. We have shirts for sale at our store at Death Wish Inc. Pick one up. It's a great way to support the show. And you can follow us on social media at New Scene Pod. Also, don't forget to support Iodine Recordings. My band Memory Entry just released our debut EP. It's called Our World Is Going to Disappear. The Iodine variant is all sold out, but the Mind Over Matter variant, I think there's 2 left in the Mind Over Matter store, so pick those up while supplies still last. Love Letter have tour dates with Stick to Your Guns in the UK. Check their page or the Iodine page for a full list of dates. Her Heads on Fire have 2 tour dates coming up. Friday, April 4th at Liars Club in Chicago. Saturday, April 5th at Smalls Bar in Detroit. Teardrops have an East Coast tour starting in April. Check their page or the Iodine page for a full list of dates. For more information, head to iodinerecordings.com. Make sure you sign up for the email list, and you can follow the label on Instagram at Iodine Recordings. Hey, look, there's Quicksand. I'm seeing them tonight, and I'm stoked about that. Also, don't forget to support our sponsor for the month of March, Evil Greed. In addition to their online store, Evil Greed offers tour merch handling, and logistics services for tons of bands. They also offer merch and distribution solutions for bands and record labels in Europe and the UK. Evil Greed has a carefully selected roster of artists and labels in their online store. They offer very reasonable worldwide shipping rates specifically to the UK and the USA. Let's take a look at what's going on. Look, we've got the official merch store for Steve Von Till. He's got a new record, Alone in a World of Wounds, up for pre-order right now. Steve was just on the show. We've got merch from Brutus, Drain, Deaf Heaven, Author and Punisher, and Sumac, who have all been on the show. And we've got a great selection of featured music. Steve Von Till, Alone in a World of Wounds LP, up now for pre-order. I can't wait to hear that. Pain of Truth, we just mentioned them on the show. The new record from Deaf Heaven, Lonely People with Power. That's up for pre-order, as well as the new record from Scowl, Are We All Angels? And they've both been on the show as well. For more information, head to evilgreed.net, and you can follow the label on Instagram at evil_greed. All right, so check back in with me. In segment 3, I'll tell you everything that's going on with me. But right now, we are going to speak to Jack Beatson of Foreign Hands. Enjoy. All right, we are here now with Jack Beatson. Jack, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be back.
It's been 3 years almost. Can you believe it?
No, honestly, I was thinking about it like the last time we talked and like what the band has done since then, what I've done since then. And I was like, man, it really has been a long time.
It feels like a lifetime, and I can't wait to catch up with you. But we need to remind the people that Foreign Hands just put out their first LP, What's Left Unsaid. It's excellent. I love it. A lot of people love it, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about everything that's been happening. But Jack, first I want to ask you, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Like I was saying a few minutes ago, we've been really busy lately. My girlfriend and I have been preparing for a move and helping a friend with her move. So I've been busy with that, but this is the longest I've been like home and not on tour or playing shows in at least a year, probably longer than that. So it's been.
How long has it been?
Um, so I got back in mid-November, so it's been like almost 3 months
Wow.
of no touring. We had one show that we played in Portland, but that was just like a one-off thing. So this is probably, in fact, this is the longest I've gone without being on tour in the last like 2.5 years.
That probably feels weird to a degree, right?
Yeah, it at first I was like, it almost felt like I was just waiting for to leave for the next tour, and then I finally started to get. I was like, no, I don't have to worry about that for a little while. Like, I can relax. We can get into our routine, and it's been good. Done a lot of much needed relaxing and catching up on social stuff and all that. It's nice to have a little bit of a reset.
Yeah, yeah. You're living in California now?
Yeah.
Where at?
Yeah, by the time this is out, I'll be in Orange County, specifically the town of Orange, and I like it there a lot. Obviously, for music and hardcore, it's a legendary spot, but it's also just a really cool area. A lot of my friends live there. Good coffee, good food, good record stores. That's all I can really ask for in a place to live.
Yeah, Orange County hardcore is legendary. When did you move out there?
So I came out here around the time that we spoke last, which was like towards the end of 2022. I spent a few months out here, and then I went back to Delaware to kind of like regroup and get the rest of my stuff prepared, and moved over in, I think, either March or April of 2023. So I've been here for good, like probably close to 2 years now.
What do you prefer, East Coast or West Coast?
At this time of year, I prefer the West Coast because it's been anywhere from 50 to 70 degrees for the last 2 months. And when we were back in Delaware, it was like 20 degrees. And like, obviously, like I grew up with that. So it's nothing I'm not used to. But when we got back to California after that, I was like, oh, thank God. But I don't know. I miss the East. I miss a lot of things about the East Coast. I miss how close together everything is. Obviously, like all of my friends, my bandmates are there. I even miss just like going to shows in Philly and the surrounding area, just because that's, my home for the most part. It's where I grew up. And so there's a lot of aspects about the East Coast that I missed, but I'm learning to love being on the West Coast too. There's a lot of stuff out here that I couldn't do on the East Coast. And, it's been cool. When I think back to like moving out here, I feel like I've accomplished a lot as a person since being here. So I'm happy for the the experience of moving across the country. And obviously it's great. Like my girlfriend and I live together. We have 2 cats. Like, we have like a little life out here. So it's cool. I like it a lot. I don't know if it'll be long term where I settle. I think probably I want to settle back on the East Coast at some point, but we'll see. I didn't really think I was going to be out here for this long either, and I ended up liking it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's good to move different places, try different things. You figure out who you are, what you like, what you don't like. I lived in the suburbs of Pennsylvania. Then I lived in the city, which was a whole different experience. And then I moved up to New York City, which I thought I would be prepared for. I was like, oh, I live in Philly. Like, I'm a city guy. I know how to handle everything. But New York City is like light years different from Philly. But I managed to make it work. And I've learned a lot. I'm glad I've tried a few different places.
Yeah, that's kind of where my head was at. Because as far as like living, I had never left the state of Delaware. And, I had thought about moving to Philly just because, again, it's right there. And bunch of friends are up there, but my girlfriend already being out here just kind of gave me that extra incentive to just be like, why not? Like, I'm in a position right now where I can make this big move, and that's not always going to be the case. And I feel like I probably would have regretted it if I didn't do it. So it's overall, it's been great.
How long have you been with your girlfriend?
6 years.
And how old are you now?
I'm 29 now.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier today because I knew I was going to talk to you. I was like, I feel like he's been in that relationship for a while. And I like that because you're being responsible. When I was young, I was not responsible. I'd be in a relationship and all I would think about is what I was missing out on, even if there was no other option. And I was just always thinking about the next thing. I was not present in whatever I was doing and I squandered a lot of potentially good situations. So if it's someone younger making smart choices, I'm always happy about that.
Yeah, I feel like I went through that phase kind of like when I was in college, and it just wasn't for me. I like wanted it to be for me, because I feel like I was kind of like romanticizing it. But then when my girlfriend and I met, I was just like, that doesn't matter. And it's been great. And we always say like just about everyone in the band is like a married man at this point. Only one of us is actually married, but we're all kind of like at that phase in life where we've settled down, and it's cool to see not just me doing that, but my friends and my peers doing it. It really makes me feel like I'm like getting older.
Yeah, we all are. It's happening.
Yeah.
How is it with you on the West Coast and the rest of the band on the East Coast? Does it make things more difficult in terms of writing and coordinating things?
Yeah, a bit. I mean, it's since I moved, our drummer has bought a house with his wife and like set up a whole like practice space studio there, which we didn't have like a stable area to track demos and to practice before I left. So I feel like we would definitely be getting a lot more done, with me being there now that I could drive 10 minutes to demo stuff. But honestly, for the most part, I feel like we've been able to work around it. Most of the stuff that we do at this point is like touring. So it makes sense for me to fly out before a tour, and then we're gone for a month or however long, and then I fly back after. We've done like some one-offs here and there, but I try to kind of plan. It doesn't always work, but I try to kind of plan it around like other stuff that I have going on, whether it's like family stuff or other bands, or I had 2 weddings I had to go to. So it's I never really have felt like I've been like gone for a super long time until like these last couple months where I'm like, yeah, we really haven't done anything. But I feel like overall we've been making it work, and so far it hasn't like hindered us from doing anything that we've wanted to do. Like we've been able to work around it.
Yeah, I see you out on the road a lot. I've seen you live at least 3 times in different places, so it's got to be working.
Yeah. Yeah, we did a lot this last year. It was just kind of a grind. This last year was definitely a grind for sure.
Right. How does it work with songwriting? Will you typically come up with something first? Does someone else typically come up with something first? Will you like email it over to them to check out? How does it work now?
So prior to us doing the LP, a lot of the material was spearheaded by our singer Tyler. He was like the main writer and like creative visionary and stuff, and the rest of us would kind of help out here and there. But for the most part, it was all him. And when we did Bleed the Dream, that kind of changed because we brought in our friend Isaac to help us write. And then the rest of us contributed our own ideas, writing the demos and in the studio. So by the time we went into doing the LP, it was very much like a collaborative effort. I remember we had just gotten off tour. We just gotten off tour with Counterparts, end of 2022. And we were like planning to go into the studio in a few months, and we had like a handful of songs, but we didn't have a lot of stuff. And the way that we ended up writing in that period of time was just kind of meeting up in smaller groups and writing. Like, so I would meet up with our singer Tyler and we would write a song or like jam out some stuff. our other guitarist Gil and our drummer Tyler would meet up and they would demo stuff, or I would meet up with both of them, or we would all meet up. So a lot of it came together very collaboratively, but we were kind of going back and forth between demoing at our singer's house and our drummer's house. And then as the time got closer to going to the studio, we kind of regrouped and figured out like what we wanted to work on, what we wanted to scrap, what we knew we liked. And then going into the studio with Will, we did like a week of pre-production, and he helped us kind of organize everything into like a cohesive body of work. Because it was the first time we'd ever really like, well, A, it was the first time we'd written an LP together, and B, it was the first time we'd worked together extensively like that. So, you know, it was kind of like a learning experience for sure. But I feel like the end result is something that everyone can be proud of, and everyone can kind of like put their name on, like, oh, that's my song, or that's my riff, or whatever. So I think we definitely want to continue like that moving forward. Truthfully, we've been so busy that we really haven't had a ton of time to work on the next record, or, you know, whatever comes next for us. But I feel like that's probably what this year will be dedicated to. Just because all of us have had a busy year with the band and outside of the band too. It's been hard to find any downtime to really write together. But I think we want to continue the collaborative dynamic for sure.
I think that's the way, because there's so much interesting stuff going on What's Left Unsaid. I love it. You know, we don't shy away from breakdowns, which I like. There's plenty of those. There's plenty of the melodic elements too. It's just a great mix of everything. I like that. The thing I've always liked about Foreign Hands, and that I think a lot of people like too, is it harkens back to classic metalcore bands, Poison the Well, that era, but it doesn't sound like a throwback. And Foreign Hands is a bit of a standout from the rest of the stuff happening. I like that there's options. There's plenty of really down-tuned, almost new metal, hardcore bands out there. There's a lot of those, and I love them all. But Foreign Hands is like a little different. It's a little more melodic, still heavy, but I just like that there's options out there. But it's always been like that.
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of reflective of all of our individual tastes in music. Like, we all like stuff from all across the spectrum, and everyone in the band, I feel like, has their own like unique taste that separates them from the other. So it's not like all of us are pulling from the same place. So I think that definitely helps when it comes to writing and gives it some variety. And it's definitely like something we want to continue doing, is being able to have a little bit of something, I guess, something for everyone in the music. Like, we all love the melodic stuff. We all love the heavy stuff. So it's just been, you know, finding new ways to blend the two, and ways that hopefully keep people interested and not bored.
Right. You seem like a real student of classic metalcore and hardcore. I see you post records that I forgot existed, like stuff from 20 years ago, and then I'm so stoked. I'm like, I forgot all about that. And then I go and listen to it, and you just seem really on the classic stuff. Have you always been like that? You must seek it out. Like, how? Like, have you always been like this? How do you get recommendations? Like, how do you find all this stuff?
So when I first got into music, I would get obsessed with like a band every couple months, and I would just do all the research I could about them, whether it was like going to the library and getting a book out on them when that was still an option, or like going online and watching live videos, or buying the CDs and looking at the liner notes. And so I would always look for like what bands my favorite bands were inspired by, or like what bands they toured with, or what bands they thanked in the liner notes, and just to find more stuff. And I feel like that kind of like curiosity just never went away from me. Like, it stayed with me my whole life. And when I really started like collecting CDs and records, I would spend a lot of time just like digging through the dollar bin and like just kind of looking through everything. And if I saw a band where it's like, this sounds like a hardcore band, or like this art looks cool, I would like look it up on Discogs or YouTube or whatever. And I feel like that just, I would just buy CDs and be like, oh, this looks cool, or like I've seen this name around. And I've just continued doing that. And, you know, like, I feel like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, there was kind of a shift, at least in like my circle of friends, to like looking into old bands and kind of like educating ourselves and getting up to speed. So that was something that I was always super interested in. And, you know, I would go on Discogs and see what other bands those members were in, all that stuff. I'm just always kind of looking for new deep cut bands, just because I just think it's really interesting. And, you know, I also just like the physical, like collecting aspect of it too. Like, it's cool to find a CD that's, you know, $2 and it's been completely forgotten about for years. And then I put it on and I'm like, this is fucking awesome. And that's happened to me like a bunch of times. And there's definitely bands that I wouldn't have ever found in my life if I didn't just like grab the CD because the name looked cool. So yeah, I've just always been super nerdy about that stuff, and still am, and I probably always will be.
I love it because I saw you post an Ink and Dagger CD. I was like, this is the best band ever. I saw you with a bunch of Candiria CDs. Yep. They're legendary. Embodiment, who I completely forgot about. I remember liking that record, and then they turned into like a rock band on the next record.
Yeah.
And I like that record too.
Yeah, I like that. I can't remember what the name of that record is, where the first one after they made the sound change. It's like, it's cool, but it never really like latched onto me the way that first LP did, just because it's like so insanely heavy for the time. It's like almost doing what deathcore bands would be doing 7 years after it came out. Like, it's always cool to me to find bands that were kind of innovators and for sounds that didn't catch on until much later.
Right. Some people were just too ahead of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Candiria is another example of that too. Like, just absolute insanity.
Yeah. There's only one of them. I can't think of another band that sounds like that. They're amazing. I still listen to them to this day.
I've been really going down I've been going through a Candiria phase lately, just starting from the first record and listening through, just because there's every song is like so dense, and like it'll like literally go from a mosh part to like a jazz interlude to like a rap break back into a mosh part. Like, it's just insane. And like you said, there's no other band that sounds like that.
Yeah. And like on that first record, sometimes a song will just be like 4 breakdowns strung together, and it's awesome. I love it.
Yep.
I've seen you mention 7 Angels, 7 Plagues a lot. Would you say that's your favorite band?
They're up there for sure. I mean, I got the poster right behind me. They've been very influential for me over the years, because I think that they're another band who is very ahead of the curve. And Misery Signals was like one of the bands that got me into metalcore just through like seeing their music videos and stuff. So when I like found out about the connection there, obviously I was like, I have to check this out. And ever since I like first listened to it, it's just never left my rotation. There's something like super special about it. And like, obviously there's a lot of bands that sound like that. And obviously, you know, Misery Signals is incredible and kind of like carried on that sound, but I don't think that anyone has been able to like capture the same vibe that record does. And it's, you know, one of those things that even if the production is like dated and, you know, there's like little imperfections on it that you can hear, I just like think it's perfect. So it's always been super influential for me since I first heard it.
Yeah, you covered them on that Misery Signals tour, right?
Yeah. We so Misery Signals, when they did their like Malice 10-year anniversary, which was like their first tour back with Jesse on vocals and like all the original of Malice members, they would close with Silent Death's Crowded Lives and bring out Matt Mixon because he was on tour with them. And they brought out their other vocalist, Timo, at I think the Milwaukee date, and they would all sing the song together. And so when we got confirmed for the Misery Signals tour, my immediate thought was, oh my God, they're going to do that. And it's going to be incredible. And I'm going to lose my mind every night. And I was talking to Stu, who plays guitar. And I was like, are you guys doing the cover? And he's like, no, we're not. But he was like, but you guys should do it though. And I was just like, I took it to the band. I was like, we have to do it now. Like we got their blessing to do it. Like we have to. And so we did it at like a handful of those shows, and a couple shows Jesse from Misery Signals came out and sang it with us, and it was like a super full circle moment. Like I remember the first date that we played it at, we practiced it during sound check because we hadn't covered it together in a long time, and just Ryan and Kyle, who were both in Seven Angels, are just like standing there watching us practice, and I was like, this is so fucked up. Like, this is crazy. But no, they were very like cool, and they were stoked that we were doing it. So that was probably one of the biggest full circle moments for me personally to come from this band.
Aren't those the best, like, you know, people that you look up to, people that you grew up listening to, it circles back around somehow like that with an interaction or a conversation or a show or something like that. I love that when that happens.
Absolutely. And like, I feel like the older, you know, when you're younger, especially before, you know, like before I discovered hardcore and even metalcore, like I would look up at the bands that I liked and like kind of idolize them and like view them as sort of larger than life. And then you get older and you just kind of realize that everyone's just a normal person. But especially within hardcore, like I feel like it's very easy to just meet people in bands that you grew up loving, and by the time that you get older, it's just easy to talk to them as like a normal person, and you kind of lose that sense of like idolizing someone because you realize this is just another guy in a hardcore band or whatever. So I feel like that's been super cool, just having people from bands I grew up listening to who are either like my friends now or like an acquaintance or a fan of the band. Like that's always super cool just to be like, oh, this guy from this band was at our show. And I'm like, that's so crazy.
I like that people tend to like it if they're recognized by somebody too, right? Like if I go to a band I love and say, hey man, you're awesome, you influenced me, unless they're a complete asshole, it seems like there's always a mutual appreciation, like, oh, you like me, I like you, and that's cool. I like that. Those are 99% of the interactions in this scene.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's because, you know, for the most part, there's no sense of, there's not like a huge sense of ego with it, like playing in a hardcore band. Like even legendary bands, at the end of the day, it's not like you're going and meeting Metallica, you know. It's just it's a very cool dynamic that I've always appreciated, even just from being a teenager and going to hardcore shows and kind of realizing like, oh, nobody in here is like acting like a rock star. Like, you know, the singer of the headlining band will be walking around the venue all night hanging out. So that's always something I've appreciated about going to shows.
Right. Yeah, I say it all the time. When I started going to shows at 16, 17, I thought the bands were like 30 and just these full-time, big-time adult musicians. And then when I ended up talking to all of them on this show years later, it turns out they were like 4 years older than me. And I was like, oh man, they seemed a lot older, but I seemed a lot younger.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean, because I feel the exact same way.
Yeah. So Foreign Hands recorded What's Left Unsaid with Will Putney. You said there was a week of pre-production. What do you do during that week? What kind of things do you do to get set up?
So we sent him all of the demos we had like a few weeks out, and they ranged from like full-fledged songs to like a minute and a half of music to just like 2 riffs, you know, and just were like, here's everything we have that we're considering using. And he was like, cool, I'll listen to it and familiarize myself with it. And, you know, we'll convene at the studio and kind of decide where to go from there. So the first day he was like, here's the stuff I think is good. Here's the stuff I don't think we need to use. he's like, do you guys agree? Is there anything you feel strongly about? And for the most part, I think we were all like cool with what he was saying. I think that there were some ideas that he wanted to scrap that we kind of just like stole a riff or two from and placed it somewhere else. But it was just like a lot of Frankensteining the songs, like just going through as a group and just trying to make each song as cohesive as it could be, or trying to write the song itself. Like there were a couple songs that were either not written or were barely written before we went into the studio. So a lot of that time was spent working on writing those new ones or like finishing them and going into the old stuff we had too, and kind of going part by part and seeing what could be better. And obviously like that kind of process continues throughout the whole record. As we're tracking instruments, like there's always room for us to kind of be like, well, maybe we should do it this way instead. But I feel like because the stuff that we had come in with was so rough around the edges for the most part, it was good for us to like workshop the songs for a good week before we started to actually track them.
Yeah. When you go to record, does Will make suggestions for tone? Like, will he say, hey, maybe we should try this instead of that? Does everyone bring their own gear? Do you use gear that he has there? How does that whole part of it work?
So for the most part, we used his gear just because he has so much. It's like anything that I could bring, he's probably already going to have. We did track a lot of the record on my personal guitar. But other than that, we used some of his guitars for like layering and stuff like that. But he has like a deal with, I want to say it's with Neural, but I could be wrong about that. Where he has profiled all of his heads and all of his cabs and like has it as like a pack that you can download at home. And when we were there, it wasn't out yet, but he had the people come to his studio and profile everything. So rather than mic up a bunch of different cabs and try a bunch of different heads and plug and unplug and all that, we just went through all of these combinations, not all of them, but like a lot of these combinations just that had been profiled on his computer. And like once we found something that we liked, he would amp it up and we'd get everything set, and then we would like dial in the tone. And we did that for the main like rhythm guitars. We did it for the leads, for the clean guitars, for like the overdubs. And, you know, the last time we worked with him was on like a 7-inch. We did like 2 songs. And I think we were there for like 3 or 4 days. So everything was very just like go, 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 go. And like I kind of just rolled with his suggestions. But this time I felt like I had more of a voice. Obviously, like we're there for longer and now we have a relationship with him. So I could kind of be like, well, no, what if we try this, or what if we do this? And I feel like I'm like very happy with how the tones on the album came out. But and also Will is just like, I mean, he's a guitar player. He's an amazing guitarist. So he knows what he's doing with dialing in the tones. So it was cool to work with him on it and to kind of learn how to do stuff that I maybe didn't know how to do before. Because it might not sound like it, but there's a lot of different tones on the record. And I think we tracked with like 4 or 5 different guitars total, just for each of those parts, and using different amps and all that stuff. So there was definitely a lot that I learned about dialing in tone for, say, like clean bits or doing like weird, like spacey ambient noise kind of stuff. Like usually in the past when I had done that, I would just kind of, you know, make everything sound crazy. And it was like a much more kind of like practical approach this time. Like we would set up a bunch of different pedals and Will would kind of plug and unplug and, you know, dial in on each different pedal. And it was very like in depth, but I think the result is something that I'm super proud of.
Definitely. And you should be. So we have the week of pre-production. Mm-hmm. How long are you in the studio after that, actually recording everything?
I think we were there for just under a month But we had some scheduling conflicts come up. We were supposed to be there longer, and then we were supposed to come back like a few weeks later, but there was some scheduling issues. So we were there, I think, for just under a month total. And in that time, we did basically all of the instruments. And I think Tyler had done like a song or two on vocals, but that was it. So he and I had to go back a few months later to like do the rest of the vocals on the album. So it was me, Tyler, and our other guitar player, Gil, came back just to do, well, Tyler and I did all of our parts, and then Gil came in and did his parts. And so it was kind of a little bit fragmented, but I think all in all, it probably took us about a month and a half total to do everything.
Yeah. Wow. So a month and a half. What do you do? I'm just thinking about logistically. What do you do? Do you stay nearby there? Do you rent a place? How does that work?
So Will's studio is connected to his house, and he has this setup where like he's got his house, and then he's got a separate wing of the house where the band stays, and then he has the studio. So like we had our own living room, our own kitchen. He's got like a little sleeping area that has 5 or 6 beds. So we basically just packed a suitcase and went grocery shopping and lived there for a month. And we would, like, myself and 2 of the other guys at the time, we were all working remote jobs. So to avoid having to take too much time off, we all set up our workstations there. So we would work during the day or try work early in the morning and then start tracking in the afternoon and go all the way into the night. And then I think we would take like days off sporadically because our drummer was working remote at the time, and to do drums properly, he wanted to have like a full day for each of the drum days. So I think he took the time off to do the drums. But yeah, he's got a great setup there, and it's nice because at the end of the day, you can go upstairs and watch TV, and then will go back to his corner of the house and he'll be able to do his own thing. So it's not like you're on top of each other the whole time. He's got like a perfect sort of balance there. I think he's got it figured out for sure.
Nice. He must. He's Grammy award-winning Will Putney now.
Yeah. Yeah. He, I think going into that, we were all so intimidated, like working with him for the first time, because he has like all these accolades and he's worked with so many bands. And it was cool going in to do those first 2 songs for the 7-inch was very like nerve wracking, but going in this time, like we know him, and it was kind of took the edge off. And I feel like we were able to become super close with him throughout that time too, just from the sheer amount of time we'd spend together. So it was cool because you'd have like an element of work, obviously. You could hang out, or we'd all get dinner together. And, his spot is so big that he would have people from other bands coming through to like stay there or to practice there. So I think there were like a total of 3 different bands that passed through and just like stayed in his house while we were there. So there was always something going on. It was like just, you'd have some downtime, but not a lot.
So you collaborated with Matt Mixon on Until the Sun Fades. That must have been great, right? I think that's definitely one of the album highlights.
Oh my God, man. Like, so obviously that's another full circle thing for me, but it's something that we had kind of like resigned ourselves to not ever happening. Cause I think since 7 Angels, the only band he's done features for is Misery Signals. And the last time he did one for them was like well over 10 years ago. So, in my mind, when we were trying to think of like who to have on the record, that wasn't even an option. And I remember at one point we were all kind of sitting in the control room, and Will was like, who do you guys want as far as like legacy bands? Like, who are some people you'd want to ask? And we all kind of shot out a couple names, and Tyler was like, what about Matt Mixon? And I was like, dude, it's not going to happen. And Will was like, I mean, I can text him. And we were like, what? He's like, yeah, like we're close. Like I'll text him and see what he thinks. Like I know that he knows who you guys are. So like, I'll see what he's saying about it. And we were like, okay. but very much kind of just like, at least I was very apprehensive about it. I was like, this isn't going to happen. And a few days later, he got back to him and he was like, yeah, I'll do it. Like, sounds fun. And we were just like, oh my God. So that was incredible, especially just like he tracked it with a friend of ours, Zach Tuck in LA. I remember when we got the roughs back of just like his vocals tracked over the song. I was just like it finally felt real at that point, and I was just like so stoked. And that's for sure one of the coolest parts about the record. I'm still just like in disbelief.
That's why you always have to ask. You never know.
Yeah.
And it helps to have a middleman like Will, because I find that if I ask people directly to come on this show, sometimes they might not answer, or I don't know, they might be too busy. But if there's a middleman, like someone who knows them, I'll be like, hey, ask them.
Yep.
And then it's like, if it's someone they know, it's like, yeah, okay, why not?
And Will is like the perfect middleman to have, because I mean, he knows everyone, and also, you know, like the work speaks for itself. Like,
exactly,
people know if he's hitting someone up about a band, like his word carries some weight to it. So that was like, we were just like, thank you so much. we met him. He came to the LA Misery Signals show, and that was like definitely one of the only times I've met someone within the realm of hardcore and been kind of like nervous. And obviously, he's like the nicest guy ever, and like he was like, I'm just glad you guys liked it. Like, I thought I was going to sound like shit. I didn't think I was going to be able to scream anymore. And we were just like, dude, it sounds awesome. Like, it means a lot. So that was a very cool full circle thing.
That's awesome. How have things been since the record has been out? It sounds like based on what you said, last year was a very busy year for the band.
Yeah. I mean, last year was definitely the most touring we've ever done. And it was mostly to markets that we hadn't really done before. So it was a lot of kind of having to sort of build ourselves back up almost, you know, in playing to these crowds that aren't really aware of who we are. Like, even on a tour like the Misery Signals tour, you'd think that someone who likes Misery Signals is going to hear us and be like, oh yeah, I love this band. But it still very much felt like we were winning people over on that tour too. I think just because of the age difference, and there's sort of a separate demographic almost. There's probably a lot of people who went to those shows who don't keep up with metalcore or hardcore anymore. So a lot of it felt like sort of a grind again. But there was a lot of really rewarding stuff too. Like, we went to Japan, which just like was incredible on all fronts. And I felt like those shows were so revitalizing for us as a band, just to go somewhere on the other side of the world where people who don't speak English somehow know the words to your songs and are just moshing and going crazy. And it was just, everyone was so hospitable and nice and funny. It was just like the best week and a half ever. Like, it was just so awesome. And then we did the UK and Europe for the first time too, which we were kind of dreading, because you hear a lot of horror stories about bands touring Europe in particular, and especially their first times in Europe. So we were just kind of like bracing ourselves for it to be horrible. And it wasn't. I mean, we had, okay, so there was one thing about it that was pretty horrible, that I promised our driver I would tell this story on a podcast at some point.
Please, yes.
So our driver is this guy named Josh, who we had never met before. And, you know, we're you know, it's always awkward when it's a group of 5 people and a guy none of us have ever met, and vice versa. So it was kind of like, we kind of had to like break the ice a little bit. It was a little awkward at first, but he was like a super nice guy. And we started in the UK. So we were driving like a UK van. So we're driving to one of the shows, and we get a flat tire, and basically our driver Josh, our bass player Chuck, and our drummer Wallaby are all like working together to figure out how to change the tire on this van because it's like a Mercedes and it's a UK one. So they all put their heads together and they did it. And we made it to the show. They took it to a garage and got the tire swapped out, and everything was good. So a few days later, we have a day off and we're in France, and it's just like a driving day. Like we had kind of driven all around and like gone sightseeing, and we went to like a monkey sanctuary. Like it's just this like really fun day, but also like we had to drive and, get somewhere. So the next show was in Barcelona the next day. So we got like an Airbnb or a hotel or something in this small little town in like rural France. And on our way to the hotel, we get another flat tire in like the middle of the French countryside. And so we're like, what the fuck, man? And so, but like they know what they're doing this time. They all change it. And we're just like, whatever, we'll get it sorted out in the morning. Because our plan had been to get to Barcelona super early so we could go to the beach and like, have like a fun day in Barcelona. So we wake up a little bit earlier so that we can take it to a garage and get the tire swapped. And we walk out, and in addition to the spare that's already on it, there's another flat tire that I guess had a slow leak and had just gone flat overnight. So like the two back tires are both flat. And we're like, well, fuck. So our driver, Josh, calls Mercedes, and they're like, okay, we'll send someone out to take a look at it. It's, probably going to happen sometime within the next hour. So we're all like crushed and like miserable. We're just like, it just immediately sends everyone into a bad mood. And we see that there's a coffee shop up the street. So we're like, all right, well, let's just go get some coffee and kill some time. And we're all like trudging up to this coffee shop. We're all miserable. And we walk in and we assume that nobody speaks any English. So we're all just kind of like standing there kicking our feet. And then the barista's like, oh, do you guys speak English? Like perfect English. And we're all like, yes, thank you. So we all order, and he like takes us out back. They have this little like table in a garden, and he brings us like sparkling water. He brings us pastries and like little shortbread cookies. And he's like, I've never really made like an iced latte before, but let me know how you guys like it. And he brings us all like iced lattes. And of course, it's like one of the best things we've ever had. So we're like totally like revitalized, and we're like in a great mood. These guys were like so nice to us, and they gave us all this food and refreshments. And then our driver, Josh, gets a notification from Mercedes that they're done. So we're like, all right, today's going to be awesome. Like today turned around real quick. We're still going to make it to Barcelona. We had a great morning. We had some breakfast and some coffee. So we walk back, and nothing has been done to the van. Both the tires are still flat. So Josh has to call Mercedes again. And when he finally gets through to someone on the line, they're like, oh yeah, we had to outsource it to a local garage. So it was marked as completed in our system, but nothing has actually been done yet. So they're like, we have like a tow truck that's going to come pick you guys up, take you to the garage, and they'll like sort you out. We're waiting around. This guy comes and gets us in the tow truck and tows us to the spot. Guy speaks no English. We get to the garage. They don't speak any English either. So we're trying to explain our situation to them using Google Translate and passing the phone back and forth. And we're like, if we could just get one tire replaced just so we can make it to the show, like that's fine. Like we just need to get moving as soon as possible. And they're like, oh, well, it's against the law in France to drive more than a certain distance on a spare. So by law, we have to replace both the tires. And so we were like, all right, whatever. Like, let's just do it. And they like wouldn't give us an estimate of how long it would take or anything. So we're just sitting in the lobby of this garage for probably 2.5 hours. And again, everyone is miserable again. We're all like, why are we doing this? What's the point of being here? Spiraling. And we're like, if this doesn't get done within the next 30 minutes, we're not going to make the show. And so we're like texting the other bands, like fully prepared to drop the show. And like, we're all bummed because we missed our fun day in Barcelona and we're stranded in the middle of nowhere. And eventually they finish and they bring the van back out. And we're pretty much just like, we've like thrown in the towel. We're like, we're not going to make the show. And our driver, Josh, is like, nah, we're going to make the show. Like, I'm going to get us to the show. Let's stop somewhere, get a quick like snack, and then I'm just going to gun it all the way to Barcelona. So he does it. And we pull up to this venue in Barcelona, and we've kind of been in contact with like someone from the venue there. And so right as we pull in to the venue, this lady comes running out. She's like, hey, Sorcerer, who the band before us is called Sorcerer. They're like, they're on their last song. So like, we have to load you guys in super quick and get you on stage. You're not going to get to line check or anything. And we're like, that's fine. So the load in at this venue is you have to put all your stuff in this tiny little elevator and take it to like the third floor. And that brings you out in the venue. So we load almost all of our gear into this tiny little elevator, and we're all like squeezed in there like this. And there's the lady from the venue is operating the elevator because it needs a key card. So we're all like barely fitting in this little elevator. We get up to the venue and we can see like through the door that Sorcerer is like wrapping up their set, and the elevator door won't open. And we can't get the door to open. So we're stuck in this elevator with all this gear. The door won't open. And the lady from the venue is like freaking out. She's like, I have no idea what's going on. She's like, I have to send the elevator back down. We're going to have to get out and we're going to have to try again. So we did that. We're all freaking out the whole time. And also our bass player, Chuck, and our driver, Josh, have been carrying the stuff that didn't fit in the elevator up the stairs into the venue. So they're like, what the hell's going on? Because like, we're up here with our stuff and where are you guys? So like, eventually we get that sorted out and we get back there and we just like run on the stage and like set up as fast as we possibly can. And we played the set. It was kind of a disaster because we didn't really have a chance to like line check or like check our stuff. Like my gear kept getting unplugged, but honestly, the show was pretty cool. And afterwards, a couple of us just we walked to the beach and we're like, we're going to see the beach. So we got a bottle of like limoncello or something, whatever was in the green room, and just walked to the beach and just sat there. And we were like, fuck, we made it. So like after that, us and our driver, Josh, were like this. We're like going through that bonding experience, and he just became like a great friend of ours, and he pulled through. And it was just like the most hellish nightmare day ever.
See, experiences like that are the greatest. Whenever I picture touring in Europe or Japan, I picture stuff like that. I'm like, how would you know where to go? How could you communicate with people? I just picture being lost all the time, difficulties, but like to overcome all of that and do the show and then just say, no, we're still going to the beach. That's it. You just got to accept what's happening and make the best of it, whatever it is. Maybe you don't get to play because too many bad things happen. Thankfully, you did get to play. And it's like, hey, we're going to the beach. That's it. We're doing all the things.
Yeah. And like, it was such a miserable, horrible day. But in hindsight, it's like a great story. Like we tell it all the time now. And because it's just like the worst things happening one after another. But yeah, even that night, like just being on the beach, like my mindset had like totally changed. I was like, nah, we did it. Like we made it. We're going to keep persevering on this tour. And luckily after that, we didn't have any other disasters. But to your point about Japan, I was definitely more excited for Japan, but also kind of worried about how it was going to work logistically. But we had our driver Cooney and the promoter Koba who booked the tour, and our friend Kore, who was also helping out with the tour. They had like an itinerary for us. So they would drive us somewhere. They booked all the hotels ahead of time, and they'd be like, all right, so this city, we're going to take you guys to this coffee shop, to this record store, to this restaurant, to this shopping district. And you guys will have free time. And then you got to be at the venue to load in at this time. And they had someone there to like translate what the venue staff was saying to us and vice versa. So like the sound in all the venues was great. And it was like the most like seamless, no bumps in the road whatsoever. And we got to do like touristy stuff too. So Japan was like definitely what I was more worried about as far as communication, but ironically ended up running like perfect. And Europe was like not not that smooth, but we made it work.
Yeah. Look at it this way. You got to have a not so smooth time in Europe touring with your band. That sure beats like working in a restaurant or working at an office somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, speaking of, you mentioned people working remotely, like during recording. Do you do that too? Do you have like a remote day job?
Yeah, I still do. I'm the only one who still does.
Yeah.
I work as like a copy editor and a proofreader for like different. We do the company I work for does like ads for different companies of all sorts, and I'm part of the team that goes through and like proofs them and makes sure they're good to go before they get sent back to the client. And I've been doing that for like 3 years now, and it's been really cool for touring because I can work on the road, and they're cool with that. Like the first tour I did while I was working there was like a little bumpy. I had to kind of figure it out, but I feel like I've kind of got it sorted. And even like when we were in Europe, I did like the first week and a half working, and then the next week and a half I took off. So like I didn't have to take the entire month that we were there. So it's been ideal for that. It's been a lifesaver because I keep that income while I'm on the road.
Yeah, I work remotely too, and it's a job I want to keep because that income provides everything and funds everything at this point. So it's like, I need it. I want to continue doing that.
Yeah, same here. It's like I've thought about getting other jobs, but it's just I can't really abandon that convenience just yet while we're still like trying to be a touring band.
Yeah,
because we're certainly not bringing in the bills from that. So it's a nice fallback to have, and definitely like keeps me secure. And like I have health insurance and benefits, and so that's all reassuring to have too.
that's great. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because you're still relatively young. So I was wondering, like, do you think about the future? Do you work a normal job? And yes, you do. So you're set. You've got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I think so. We're all in our late 20s, early 30s now, and I feel like typically when bands are in the position that we are right now, they're much younger, so they're able to kind of like full send everything, and they may not have the same amount of responsibilities or bills or whatever, but we are, we all live on our own, we all have to provide for ourselves. So we're definitely very conscious of that. So that's been something that's been kind of tricky to navigate, just because realistically none of us can afford to be on tour for 9 months out of the year, just because we've got bills to pay and we're not making enough money to pay those bills. So I think we're all very conscious of having a day job, whatever that may be, just because you can't really get by without it.
No, I mean, there has to be something. I was under the impression that a lot of bands that I know live off the band. And then when I started doing this show, I realized that's the exception, not the rule. And that's just the way it goes. I mean, people have to string together jobs, or they have a remote job, or they're bartending or whatever else. And I always ask people about that because I'm curious about how people make it work. Me, I've always worked office jobs. And now that I'm remote and I'm putting more time into creative stuff, I'm like pushing it more into creative, but still doing the day job during the day and seeing where that goes. But I'm always curious about how people make it work.
Yeah, I mean, I am too, just because like I know so many people my age who are touring a lot, and I know that like even if their band is a little bit bigger than ours, like certainly can't be what pays their bills. So I'm always asking friends of mine who tour that are like late 20s, early 30s, like, what do you do for your day job? Like, do you work remote? Do you stack up money when you're home? And it seems like it's a pretty big combination of both of them.
So right now we have What's Left Unsaid out. the debut LP from Foreign Hands. We want everybody to listen to that if they have not heard it yet. And we have the tour with Counterparts kicking off February 17th, yes? And that's exciting.
I'm really excited for that. We've all been excited for that basically since we confirmed the tour. I mean, for one thing, like Counterparts are our friends. We've toured with them before. And I think on paper, that tour with Counterparts that we did is still like the best tour we've ever done in terms of logistics and all that stuff. So we're excited for that reason, and because like Pain of Truth are friends of ours, and we met some of the Malevolence guys when we were in the UK, and they were all really cool too. So it seems like it's just going to be a tour of all friends, and we also just happen to be playing these really big rooms. So we're all like very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I will be at the New York date, so I'm going to look for you, and I'm going to say, hey, remember me? I'm the guy.
Yeah, definitely let me know.
Yeah.
I always like playing New York, but it's always stressful to find parking with a van and trailer at basically any venue in New York City. So that's like, I feel like the New York shows are always kind of dreaded for us solely for that reason. It's like once we're there, the show's great, but it's just maneuvering through the city with a van and trailer is just the worst.
Yeah, thinking about it now is making me sweat a little bit, and I don't even have to do that. So
Yeah, I typically don't do it either. Like that just stresses me out too much doing.
Who's the guy who will drive in that situation?
So I feel like lately it's been either our bass player Chuck or our drummer Wallaby, and our singer Tyler does too. I feel like he does that, like the city driving, but Chuck and Wallaby are the ones who will like get the parking situated. Like if we have to parallel park the van and trailer or stuff like that, like we're lucky because we have those three who are good with that stuff. And Wallaby and Chuck in particular, like have both worked on cars, vans, motorcycles. So they're very like knowledgeable about vans and vehicles in general, which is a very good thing to have when you're in a touring band.
Man, thinking of parallel parking a van and trailer is giving me anxiety just thinking about it.
I can't do it. Like if I'm driving and we get to the venue and we have to parallel park, I'll get out and be like, can somebody else do this? Like I just can't.
I would probably do the same thing. Well, Jack, it's great to have you back on the show. I love the band. I've been listening to it for years now. I'm always looking forward to more. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. I think I had a lot of fun the last time we did this, and this has been awesome too. So it's been cool to be back.
And there you have it, Jack Beatson. So great to have Jack back on the show. I've been a fan of Foreign Hands since Bleed the Dream came out. When was that? 2022? I still remember hearing Separation Souvenir for the first time, and that melodic break that hits around the 2-minute mark. I damn near teared up hearing that for the first time. And then when it goes into the next part, it just reminded me of going to shows with my friends, being young, them playing that kind of music, me loving that kind of music, going on tours together, being out with This Day Forward. It all hit me like a ton of bricks, and I got emotional. But I love everything Foreign Hands has done. Make sure you check out What's Left Unsaid if you haven't heard it yet. It's a must listen, and it was just really cool to hear about Jack's experience and, you know, getting to perform and collaborate with some of his heroes. That tour story that he told where they had the horrible day and then everything worked out, I think that's a good lesson for life. Their approach, how they handled that, just rolling with it, getting things done and at the end of the day, just saying, hey, we're still going to the beach like we planned. And that brought a smile to my face. So I'm looking forward to more from Foreign Hands in the future. And thank you so much, Jack, for coming back on the show. So let's check in. How are we doing? I am doing okay. I'm burnt out. I'm working too much. Same old story. But the good news is my band, Memory Entry, our debut EP, Our World is Going to Disappear, just came out. And check this out. I got this in the mail. Look at this. See that? That's a custom mailer from Mind Over Matter Records. I've never seen a custom mailer for a band before. Hold on. Look at that. That's cool. And here's the record. I hope you can see this. I can't see what I'm looking at. All right, here we go. Let's see it without the plastic cover. Okay. And let's check out the vinyl. All right. There's the insert. Let's check out the vinyl. This is the Iodine variant, which is all sold out, by the way. Look at that. Ooh. Look at that. Ooh. This is completely sold out, but if you come to our record release show this Friday in Brooklyn, we will have some. We will have some of the Iodine variant, the Mind Over Matter variant. I think we'll have both. And there's a special release day variant that you can only get at the show or if you talk to me in person. So come to the show. Pick one up. The Iodine variant is all sold out. It's gone. There's like 2 Mind Over Matter variant. That's the white splatter one, the Mind Over Matter variant. There's like 2 left in the Mind Over Matter store. So 2 people, just buy those. Let's sell it out. Let's sell this thing out. If you're thinking about getting it, now is the time. It's just about sold out. So immense thank you to everybody who purchased the record, who did a write-up, who had us on a podcast. Special thanks to Casey at Iodine Recordings for his support of the band. He turned me on to Mind Over Matter Records in Austin. He is partnering with Austin to release this record, and I'm just completely blown away by Mind Over Matter Records. Easily one of my new favorite labels now. The work and the care and everything Austin has put into this record, the layout, watching the videos of him making the record and the screen printing and just the shirt designs and the care. And I've seen these personal notes he's put in the records for me and some of my friends and different people who are posting online. The level of care on all fronts for this record is so humbling. I could not be happier. I could not be happier. This is a dream come true for me and the rest of the guys. And I'm just so happy that people seem to be into it. And I'm so happy that the record looks as good as it does. And I'm so happy to be able to collaborate with Casey and the rest of the Iodine Recordings team and Austin at Mind Over Matter for this release. And there's more coming. We're working on LP1. We are writing more songs and we'll see where things take us. And we plan to play as many shows as possible. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you to everybody supporting this release. So let's see what else is going on. I saw Sam at the Meadows in Brooklyn recently, and that's one of my favorite venues because it's a good size. You can usually stand somewhere and see the band no matter how busy it is or what's going on. There's like usually a space where you can kind of not be near people or not getting knocked into if you don't want to. And the sound is great. And best of all, it's walkable from my apartment. So I love that. And Sam's set was just fantastic as usual. It sounded massive. The energy was high. I loved the set list. If you have not heard their new LP, Let the Light In, definitely check it out. It's one of my favorite releases of the year. I got to say hi briefly to Joel and Mike, the guitar players in Sam. Didn't catch Will, but I hope that I do next time. And just always a pleasure to see that band. So that was great. Besides that, it's business as usual here. Things are busy. I'm just trying to find time to decompress because I'm feeling the pressure today, trying to keep up with everything. But that's it. That is it. I hope everybody out there is doing well. I'm back next week with a new episode and a new guest, and I'll see you then.